Inazuma battle theme. Before we start, because last time I was surprised about who did it, who's doing this. Folk music performance by Shamisen, Yutaka, Oyama, Sayo, Komada, Koto. Oh, the instrument is the shamisen, and they're who's playing it. The koto is Kamisu Watanabe, and look, I can't. The taiko is played by Kodo, or have I got that the wrong way around? Shakuhachi is being played by Mamino Yorita. I mean, these are the first times I've read these words. I don't know if they're like big in this world of. It's produced by Sony, so I'm assuming these are quite good musicians. I mean, already that's fucking badass, isn't it? Like, already it's badass. It's like got. I've heard it so many times in the game, but it's got this like little bit of creeping tension in those first few chords, those first few notes together. Like, it's like, oh, this is just about to get started. Hello. It's very kung fu, and the setting, I mean, it isn't a dojo, but it looks reminiscent of a dojo, doesn't it? And those big windows behind them, the big architecture, like fairly modern architecture around them. We know that Genshin Impact's fairly modern, but it's gone super traditional with the costumes, and then they've just like set them there on these very sympathetic to nature as well, these wooden boards. They've all got their own space. Like, you get the feeling that the performance is going to involve some, like, they're not going to be jumping around, I assume they're going to remain seated, but because this poise of these drummers and the attitude of the music, and from now having played the game so much, knowing that I'm about to go into combat, I almost get the impression these artists are about to start jumping around. That's riffs, isn't it? Dun, 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 dun. This is like rock music. It's not on electric guitars, and they've not got the big amps, but like they're there with the dun, 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 dun. Like, you imagine that the Deftones or someone could start with that, and then like, this could get heavy. Like, this could get heavy. It's got a lot of ominous vibe to it, and there's a lot of edge to it as well, isn't there? And you kind of see that in the tension. Like, it's nice use of like the way the instruments reflect the music they're playing as well. The tension in the strings, and you can hear it under tension in the way it's being played with that. What is that? Like, it's not a plectrum, is it? It's like playing it with a spatula. It's really cool the way they're changing the mood very subtly, and they're building into it, and the way the instruments, I don't know exactly what they are, the guitar style instruments, but they have a very percussive quality of their own, don't they? In the same way as a piano is a percussion instrument, yet it's playing strings. Like, the plucking of them has a very percussive quality of its own. It's almost like raindrops strumming on a like tin roof in a way, isn't it? It's not the sound so much, but the way lots of different maybe lighter percussions can I'm trying to get my words together. The way that a xylophone has got lots of high notes and it's percussive, the way that you can bring together a lot of percussive notes together and create like instead of a clattering sound of a load of marbles, like, it can come together and form these complex rhythms that create melodies, like these melodic rhythms. Yeah, melodic rhythms. That's what I'd rather say. Yeah. And that's why I just heard it. Then the beat. That's why part of me feels, because so many dance tunes that I've enjoyed over the years start with this sort of thing, and then you'll hear the beat come in, and then it'll build into a big bassline slammer. Like, quite interesting. I know it is a battle theme, so it'll be going on in the game while you're fighting, and you don't want to overpower everything, but there's no hi-hats, there's no snare, which are the usual sounds of Western pop music. The where's all that? And we're left with this rumbling, and again, like these the higher percussive strings create that. Like in music, you've got different spaces. You've got the high pitch. I think of it in terms of a 3D space. I think of the bass as being under the waves, and the power of the waves, the energy of the undersea currents as being the bass, and then the melodies float over the top of the sea, and then like up in the sky where the clouds are, you've got these like helicopter sounds of the snares and the that very crisp pitch at the top. So in this, that space of is all replaced with the you're left to, they don't override these strings with what you would normally hear, that so they're left to sing and create that like that very high end of the frequency. They're left to sing in that space. Nice the way that all seemed to flow as one, didn't it? And yet we're sort of building up to the point where we're using all the instruments together, and there was a really nice symbiotic harmony. They nothing overpowered anything. Everything sang together and carried us through this little section, and it's still kind of building. It's not got to a resolution anywhere yet. It's still kind of building to something that it's asking questions. Sometimes the instruments, one will play, the other will answer, one will play the other. In this, they're sort of asking questions of they're asking questions of the composer, of the composition, like what's coming next, like dun 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 dun. Like it's like a bit of tension, isn't it? It's a bit of suspense, and you naturally feel like you want to release into something a bit more easy after this. It's a battle theme. It's to play underneath the fighting, so I don't know if they are planning to release this anywhere, but. Quite interesting to me as well that this appears to be like the way the orchestra, the way the musicians are focused on their instruments and still in between playing, the way they're so it's almost like military, isn't it? It's almost like a military drill, the drumming, the way they're so like rigid, and that precision and that focus, like it's kind of reflective of the concentration that you have when you're in the battle sequence, isn't it? It's quite interesting. Like the tension in the piece and the complexity of some of these interweaving percussive melodic rhythms. You can imagine doing a few takes, couldn't you? And fuck, if you get it just slightly wrong, everything's fucked. Everyone hears that one because it was just slightly out. It's got to be perfect. So that is again, it's like reflective of your process when you're focusing on the fight, isn't it? It's almost like they're going through a bit of a struggle themselves to perform it. I'd say I think struggle's the wrong word, because when you master an instrument, it becomes less of a struggle and more of a joy. But to the uninitiated, it might sound quite complex and quite difficult. And they're, you know, struggle's the wrong word, but you know, they're putting in some effort to achieve this, aren't they? And there you go. I say it was a bit tense. This is there to release that tension, isn't it? It's like literally a breath out, floating, not so much on top of these percussive rhythms, but floating through, around, and with. But something that you can breathe out with, something that you can relax along with, even though there's a lot of inherent tension in the piece. Finding that flow through the complexity, through the concentration, that release point where you're no longer thinking A, E, C, D, E, F, A, B, T, D, like where you're no longer mentally concentrating, where you've just found the flow and now you're riffing and, you know, free within the, like it's a lot like the dance reflecting of combat, isn't it? You know, finding those moments where you can, where you're not struggling against your opponent, but where you're, how do I explain it? Like when I used to fence, because I did a bit of sword fighting, when you actually make the hit, like the moments when you're not making the hit, where you're chasing your opponent down, or they're chasing you down, or you're stopping their sword, or trying to find the opening, like those moments of the struggle, when you actually make the hit, that's it all connect. Like the lights come on, even in the fencing, you've got like you create an electric circuit and the light comes on, like but that's it, you know, the hit is the easy bit, smooth through, clean, whoosh, the hit. Like if you were doing a combat sport, all the parries and the movement and the avoiding and, you know, those moves, like a lot of kung fu martial arts, there's a lot more blocking and dodging than there is actual hitting. You know, it's all that, isn't it? It's all the evasion and all that. And then the actual moment of the strike is the connecting up of it all. And that's the easy, you know, things flow through then. It's like you complete the circuit, and the act of flow within something difficult, like when you become practiced enough at the guitar so you can hammer out that riff, but then you don't have to think, because you can then just do something a bit creative, because you achieve this flow state. It's just, it's human and it's natural and it's creative. So I like the way that they've incorporated this. I don't know what the instrument is, you know, the great big flute pipe, the great big recorder. The great big Japanese recorder gives us that feeling of flow, of enlightenment. You know what I mean? Like when the kung fu master is so enlightened, they hardly have to move. You know, they just flow and, you know, make like the Tai Chi, the paint the house, paint the fence becomes, you know, block the shot, do the kick. It all just happens in perfect flow, doesn't it? Like you enjoy it, you almost on autopilot, and you pull in the face while you're doing the solo. Do you know what I mean? I'm not a very good guitar player in that sense. I can't do a very good guitar solo and just go in complete flow. I make mistakes, but in other aspects of life, in other instruments as well, in other places, I've found that flow. Yeah, it's cool. And I like the way they incorporated that flute for that reason. Through that flute part as well, flute, I mean, it's the great big piece of bamboo, isn't it? Through that part, there was a nice counter rhythm from the drumming, and they used the side of the drums with the sticks to give it that which was quite nice. A bit of crispness and a bit of texture behind it. And I like, you know, when everyone's clapping, this really does my head in, because they never clap in time, but you know, when everyone's clapping along to the song that they like, everyone's clapping in the audience like that. Like, I'll sit there in the audience and I'm playing with like they're going like, so I'm, like, I'm doing some like counter rhythms and stuff. Like, I just think it's fun because they're all clapping in time. Like, so it gives me a chance to play with count. Like, I'm on my own little world when they do that. But generally, I don't like it when an audience claps along with a song, because they go out of time and they sort of clap through parts where it's supposed to get quiet. And you know, it's just, if you like it, enjoy it, but you don't have to clap. Anyway, the counter rhythms of the drums. And interestingly, this bamboo flute rhythm pipe thing, whatever, I don't know what you call it. It's written down there. It's one of those instruments. The bamboo thing, it goes from high to low. It's got a little, you know, little cheerful or stutter step in it. Like, it's got a little bit of melodic interest in it, but goes from high to low. Takes us like, it's just smoothing you down, bringing that. What do I want to say about that? How do I want to explain that in my? I can hear it in my brain, but I can't get my words out. Went high at the end there. Went high at the end. So I want to hear this again. Quite nice actually, because it did take us low in the middle, didn't it? And then it came up and out at the end, and by taking us low at the middle, it kind of made me expect it to drop down again at the end there, but instead it escaped off out. It's nice and exciting when it ends as well, isn't it? That little haunting note at the end. Very brave to just, like, you know, it's gonna be something that gets played over and over again in the game when people fight things. It's very brave to draw it to a conclusion like that and not just have it sort of fade out and then fade back in, or, you know, repeat the same intro sequence backwards as you started, so that you can then, you know, play it again and again in the game. And, you know, it starts with this little guitar, so it finishes with that little guitar, and it starts with that, you know, I mean, instead of that, they just brought it to a nice and solid conclusion that left you sort of excited in anticipation of more. Like, it's like drawing a line, like, and being poised, ready for action at the end. It doesn't feel like we're finished. Genshin Impact's so good, isn't it? Genshin Impact's so good. Like, the effort and the time and the, you know, the craft and the high quality and caliber of these people that they bring into... Like, it's just the music. Just a bit of the music for it. For the old computer game. Well done, Yutaka, Oyama, Sayo, Komada. They must have been playing the little guitars. That's Shamisen. Taiko, they're going to be the drums, because that's a group called Kodo. So, the Koto, Kamusai Watanabe, I'm guessing is the big, like the big one. That's the Koto. And so I guess this flute is called a Shakuhachi. Well done, Mamino Yorita, for playing that. Let me check it is, and I'm right. Let me have a look at what is a Haku. I'm not very good at reading Japanese words the first time, so you have to just forgive me for being bad at reading Japanese words for the first time. Yeah, look, this is that then. Oh, pronounced, and then they do that, and you can't read what that word is. Pronunciation for Japanese. I don't know how to pronounce that, so... the bamboo-blown flute, it is a flute, now known as the Shakuhachi, was developed in Japan in the 16th century and is called the Shakuhachi, a bamboo flute known as the Kodo Shakuhachi. There's a lot of different names for them. It's quite different from the current style, when it first started. After a long blank period, they reappeared in the 15th century, in the 16th century, and then the 18th century in the Edo period. And eventually, and it died out and it came back. It's weird that it dies out and it comes back. Fukuzen. What's Fukuzen? Japanese Zen, as an offshoot of the Rinzai school during the nation's feudal era. Philosophical roots to... What were they up to? Noted for playing the flute. So there was a kind of monk, get this, there was a kind of monk, like Genshin himself was a monk. Genshin was a famous monk, and he had a school of Zen himself. Well, this was a school of Zen. You put a basket on your head and you play the flute. You just fucking zone out, mate. You just fucking zone out. Don't ask me any questions, I'm playing my flute. Zen, Buddhist. Basket on my head. What's the basket for? Don't ask me any questions. I've told you already, I'm playing my flute. She didn't have a basket on her head, did she? She's not doing it right. She ain't got a basket on her head. Is that what I'm taking away from that? I don't know. Anyway, look. It's made of bamboo, but you can now make it in hardwood if you're just some kind of crazy, flute rapist. If you don't care about just, raping the culture and you just make it out of hardwood. No, you have to make them out of bamboo. Flute purist here. Flute purist. You're going to have to make it out of bamboo, I'm afraid. So that's the blowing edge. It's quite surprising, actually. They haven't made a reed for it or anything. They just affected the edge of the bamboo and they can create a whistle with it. That's like a flute then, isn't it? Flutes don't have a reed. They're just like a hole and you blow over it. So, there you go. There's another one. What the fuck's going on with the bag on the head? That's what I want to know. What does the basket achieve, do you think? Messing up with my relaxing music. Come on, there you go. What does the basket achieve? I need to find out. I should have asked the internet, shouldn't I? They had the flute wearing a basket that covered their head as they went on pilgrimage. Doesn't say why they've got the basket. It just says they have got the basket. Mount, look at this. Wait. Where are we about to go in Genshin Impact? Where are we about to go? Genshin Impact 3.0. Wait, why is he not doing my typing for me, you fucker? Fuck off. Genshin Impact 3.0. Right? Where are we going? What's the name of the new place? Sumeru. Some... Just fuck off the internet. Sumeru. Sumeru. Yeah, right. Fuck PC Gamer. I'm never going on there again then. Sumeru. Yeah, that's where we're going. Sumeru. Genshin Impact. Sumeru. What's this? Mount Sumeru. One day, the master, Linjin Yinzhuang, and Puha went to a vegetarian banquet, vegans, given to them by a believer. During it, the master asked Puha, "A hare swallows the vast ocean. A mustard seed contains Mount Sumeru. Does this happen by means of supernatural powers, or is the whole body like this? Substance, essence, like this?" Puha kicked over the table. The master said, "Rough fellow." Puha retorted, "What place is this here to speak of rough and refined?" So I don't understand that. The next day they went into a vegetarian banquet. They asked, "How does it compare with yesterday's?" Puha kicked over the table again, and the master said, "Understand it, you do, but still you're a rough fellow." Puha replied, "Blind fellow, does one preach of any roughness or finesse in the Buddha Dharma?" The master stuck out his tongue. So I have got no idea what the fuck they're doing, but Mount Sumeru was mentioned. Now that can't be a coincidence, can it? Mount Sumeru, what's this? It exists. Well, it doesn't. It's explained in the Buddhist Abhidharma literature. It's the centre of the Buddhist world system, known as one small universe. Many of these small universes make a medium universe, and many medium universes make a great universe. The Abhidharma Chakra is the text of the 4th and 5th century, composed by the scholar Vasubhadanu. So, but the thing is, Genshin Impact, right? Genshin... Not Genshin Impact, but Genshin... The monk is a monk. Genshin. Genshin, also known as Ishin Sozu, was the most influential of a number of scholar monks of the Buddhist Tendai sect active during the 10th and 11th centuries in Japan. Genshin, who was trained both in esoteric and exoteric teachings, wrote a number of treatises pertaining to the increasingly popular Pure Land Buddhism. Pure Land Buddhism. From a Tendai viewpoint, his magnum opus, Essentials of Birth in a Pure Land, has considerable influence on Pure Land teachers such as Honen and Shiran. So basically he was a big fella, big cheese in Buddhism. Had his own teachings, had his own legacy, influenced Japanese culture. This influential medieval text was composed by him and talks about hell and concepts of hell realms. Still influential today on Japanese culture, you know. Hongaku, East Asian Buddhist doctrine, innate intrinsic enlightenment. Like, Genshin's a pretty big chuffer, and it's Buddhism. There's nothing, you know, there's no other, like, it's Buddhism. It's hardcore Buddhism. Now, Mount Sumeru, hardcore Buddhism. It's the middle of a small universe. The mountain has 4 distinct sides, comprised of a single precious substance, commonly said to be ruby, crystal, blue sapphire or something. Surrounding the mountain are numerous rings of islands. Also, in the 4 directions are 4 large continents, each accompanied by 2 large islands. Like, there's a whole thing of it, look. Mount Sumeru. Big on the old Buddhists. Big in the old Buddhist world. Big cheese in Buddha land. I don't know, like... You know, it's a big thing. So isn't that surprising though? I just found that out through learning about Feng Fuxu, the concept of playing the flute with a basket on your head for Zen reasons, and kicking over the table because Zen.